You know it's bad when the first thing I say to myself when I leave the theater watching Wakanda Forever is they probably should have recast T'Challa. It means we're going to be talking about something that's kind of a big oof. So buckle up, Buttercup. It's Podio Commentary. Hi, my name is Matt Jarbo. This is Podio Commentary, and yet we're going to be talking about Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And I know my little bumper in the beginning of it made you think I hate this movie. Truth is, I don't hate this movie. I have a lot of problems with this movie and some stuff that I feel is a really, really large oversight by Kevin Feige and why I think he actually did what he did, or I should say what he allowed to have happen, because this movie is a cinematic mess. It is a wild mess of a film that I get what it's going for, but my God, does it just, man, it just has issues. So let's talk about this, right? First off, let me just say, I loved Black Panther 2018. Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa was fantastic casting. I loved him in Civil War, loved him in Black Panther, Infinity War, and a little bit in Endgame. And when he passed away a couple years ago, man, that was tough. He kept that from everybody. He got sick, he died, and it was so tragic. And that ended up becoming a big part of the movie. In fact, spoiler alert, he dies from a mysterious illness that he told nobody about. That's a little bit too on the nose for me. I'm sorry. Listen, I understand that they want to pay respect, that they want to pay homage, that they want to honor the memory of Chadwick and how Chadwick was T'Challa and how Wakanda Forever was a rallying cry 4.5 years ago. And I believe it still is. But look, there's got to be a separation of church and state here. There has got to be something else to the story. And therein lies the biggest problem with this movie, is when you watch it, it doesn't necessarily have what I would call a strong lead. It is meant to be Letitia Wright and Shuri, and she does her job, admirably. She does the best she can do. I feel it was so sloppy all the way through the movie that it ended up taking away from what it was that they were trying to say. Especially with that whole middle act death that was just like, come on, really? Do you have to do that? Okay, fine, whatever. So the movie takes place obviously following the events of Endgame. It has been probably a couple years since Endgame. We don't have any specific time frame yet. We just know that T'Challa is dead and everybody is in mourning. And while T'Challa is dead and there is no Black Panther protector of Wakanda, it does appear that outside interests are attempting to get their hands on as much vibranium as humanly possible. In fact, the Dora Milaje, led by the Queen, Angela Bassett, who, by the way, deserves a nomination for Best Actress or Best Supporting in this movie. She dynamite performance all the way through. Loved her in it. Her and Tenoch Huerta were the best actors in the movie, hands down. They both did fantastic. The acting here was definitely good for the vast majority of it. There were some weak spots, like with Okoye and M'Baku and Shuri and Julie Louis-Dreyfus was kind of, why is she here? It felt very much tacked on. Martin Freeman, Everett Ross was really good. But it was missing. Oh, Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia. She was really good too. Definitely my personal favorite in the movie. But that's because she's like one of the most attractive women on the planet. It's hard not to like her. Sorry. But anyway, so it's like they're trying to deal with everything. And at the same time, like the Namor and the Atlanteans, if that's what you want to call them, they're really not. That the Mayans, they don't really give them a name. The Telokans, whatever you want to call them. They're like trying to stop vibranium from being discovered outside of Wakanda. And they actually found that that little 19-year-old Riri Williams developed the technology to sniff out. She created basically a vibranium dowsing rod that the CIA took from MIT and is using to try to hunt down their own deposits of vibranium, because Wakanda doesn't want to give any of that particular resource away, which completely makes all the sense in the world. And then from there, the Namor shows up with his people and they just take everybody out using siren songs. They literally siren sing to people to get them to kill themselves. So that was kind of cool, but it was, I don't know, that was kind of overplayed. It was cool at first. I'm like, all right, whatever with it, everything else, but because it impacts some people, but not everyone. I think it's all about distance and whatever's blocking it. But that being said, the entire UN, right? The world thinks that this was a Wakanda attack and they want to go and attack Wakanda, but it's like they have no reason to believe that it's Wakanda. It's just because Wakanda is like, we don't want to play, we don't want to share our toys. But they discovered more vibranium outside of Wakanda, which means that there is probably more vibranium around the world, and that might come up down the road later on. But it was like, okay, so that kind of sets things in motion. And then Namor shows up and he basically tells, the Queen and Shuri, listen, go get the scientist, bring her to me so I can kill her. And I won't kill you guys. That's that. That's the reason. So Okoye and Shuri head over to Cambridge, Massachusetts to go to MIT to find Riri Williams. And they she's been working on the prototype Ironheart suit. We get to see that in action. That was pretty cool. Looked better as like a Mark I versus the whatever came out later on in the movie. But then we get into this action scene where it's like the action scene out of the casino in the first Black Panther was awesome. This one was just like very ham-fisted and hokey. They're being chased by the police, but then like the Telecons show up with like their whales are like that's their transportation, and then they fight, and it's just like Okoye versus all of them. Shuri gets taken. Okoye gets demoted and yeeted from the Dora Milaje, and it's just like I love the character of Okoye. I like the actress, Danai Gurira. That's her name. If I'm mispronouncing it, I apologize. But like, I feel like they did her so dirty in this movie. They just did her so freaking dirty, because it's like, I understand the Queen's upset. So the Queen's like, I'm going to punish you because you said you had her and you didn't have her, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, not only that, but she was just being like dismissed across the entire time, it felt like. And then they just like boot her out. And she's like, I'm the best you got. Like during the time T'Challa was gone, I was leading the charge. And like, but they don't talk about what happened during the snap or the blip or whatever. It's just like, she's like, well, you backed Killmonger, so I'm not going to trust you. Whatever, man. Okay, fine, whatever. But then they end up bringing Riri, Nakia ends up getting sent in. That was kind of weird. She basically becomes like a spy. We saw that established in the beginning of the first movie, but here she's in Haiti and she's like a school teacher. And then like they go and they recruit her to track down Namor and then get into Telecon, and in order to be able to break out Shuri and Riri Williams and everything else. And then she gets down there and she murders a couple people. She kills them for like what feels like no real. I mean, I understand why she killed them, because she felt like they were a threat. They were threatening the princess. Obviously they had to die, but she starts off this war effectively by killing him, when I almost feel like it wasn't necessary to do that. Like there could have been other ways, but that's obviously the point of the movie, is that there's other ways to handle grief than there is through violence and action and things like that. So then Namor attacks and the Queen gets killed. She drowns. And it's like, you start the movie by killing T'Challa, then you kill off the Queen. Now Shuri's in charge. Shuri, who is like untested across the board. And I don't mean that like we didn't watch her train. She's like a young kid. There's a line by M'Baku and he's like, you've been through enough, or enough has been taken from you to where you're no longer a kid. Right. Like, so they talk about that, and that makes all the sense. And then they use like a 3D printer to recreate the Purple Heart herb in order to have her become Black Panther. But she goes to the ancestral plane. She runs into Killmonger, which does make sense for the whole revenge and violence angle of everything. And then they have the final battle, and the final battle is like them like luring out Namor and everything else to this giant ship that like the Wakandan Navy has. Aren't they like a landlocked culture, but they have a gigantic ship, and they get into this gigantic pirate fight with them. And at this point, Riri Williams has got like the first Ironheart suit, which looks like a fucking Gundam. And then there's like the Midnight Angels, which is from the comics, as I found out after the movie. But those are in the movie. It's like, the Dora Milaje now have like Iron Man flight suits. Okay, cool. But that last battle is bad. Like, it's just like the Telecons are like, they're fighting. You can see there's different, like you can see the battle, but there's so much slow-mo. This 2 hour and 45-minute movie has so much slow-mo that it just feels heavily ripped off by Zack Snyder. You know what I mean? Like Ryan Coogler is like, we need to stretch this thing out. slow-mo everything. I mean, they do that so you can see what's happening. But at the same time, it just feels like it breaks the pacing. And it's just, man, the final scene between Namor and Shuri, that was pretty good. Except like she gets entirely impaled with a spear. She breaks it off and like the nanobot Black Panther suit just like auto heals her. And then she like burns up Namor. That was kind of cool. She's like, Wakanda forever, and like just nukes it, you know, and she's going to kill him. But then like she realizes, oh wait, like this is vengeance is, you know, not going to be good. So she forces him to yield. And then of course, you know, everyone else yields and they all go back home and everything else. And then, you know, Namor is like, but this is all part of the plan because they need an ally and the world's going to come after them for the shit we did, which is true because that's what was going on. And that's as evidenced by the Countess, Julia Louis-Dreyfus popping up and for some reason being in the movie. Obviously that was a buildup for what was coming down the pipeline, probably a buildup towards Thunderbolts. I don't know. There wasn't a lot on the movie that was really like meant to be like a setup for down the road. I mean, except with the exception of maybe the like post-credit scene, right? Because now Shuri is queen of Wakanda. They send Riri Williams back to Boston, you know, and then like, you know, at the end of the movie, Shuri travels like via messenger plane, I guess, down to Haiti, where she burns the ceremonial robes to signal that she is like ended her mourning for her brother. And then here comes Nakia with T'Challa Jr., which was nice, you know, and T'Challa knew about him, but they had sent him away so he wouldn't have the pressure of growing up as the prince, you know, and the queen knew him and everything else. And like, all right, cool. Like that was nice. I really enjoyed that. It was a nice little moment. But the thing is, like, this movie is just a collection of different scenes that are cobbled together in a way that desperately needed 2 or 3 more cuts to trim out 25 minutes. It runs on for a long period of time. And it got to a point where I'm like watching this movie and I was like, man, we got to be like an hour and a half into this 2 hour and 45-minute thing. When we meet Riri Williams for the first time, like, we got to be in this thing for a while. And I check my watch and I'm like, oh shit, it's been like 40 minutes. There's still 2 hours to go. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh my God. So when I say that this movie should have been like a limited series on Disney Plus, yeah, I mean that. Like, I feel like Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki and Miss Marvel and She-Hulk have all like looked about as good, and if not some cases better than the effects in this movie. There were scenes in this movie where people were so clearly on green screen that it is like laughably bad how far some of these effects are. And it's, you know, yeah, there's crunch time right now. And that's been a big problem this year. And Marvel's been dealing with the fallout from that. But my God, it was bad in some scenes. The music was pretty good. I'll give it that one. I don't think Ryan Coogler should have directed this movie. If you want my honest opinion, this was someone who was so close to the project that it was meant to be so personal. And I completely understand that. And I respect that. But it came across as like really lazy. Or just disheveled. Like he just wasn't in the right headspace to direct this movie. And like I said at the very beginning, it definitely means like recast T'Challa should have happened. I know they want to honor Chadwick Boseman. I get that. I fundamentally get that. But the story needed him because it was missing something. And what it's missing is Chadwick and the energy. And I'm not to say that you're going to really be able to replace that, but they could find someone to replace that. They could find someone to bring something to it that would bring it all together, because this movie doesn't have that. There's a lack of cohesion there that is going to really hurt this movie as people go to watch it a second or third time. Because the more you watch it, there's not a lot of great action scenes. They're few and far between. The emotional resonance is there and they do a good job with that, but it just kind of ends up falling apart at times. And it's like, look, either give me all action or give me all story. And also, don't even get me started on how dark the water scenes are. Not even the water scenes, just any scene at night. They went for more of a natural lighting approach. Whoever was a cinematographer on this, like, never hire that person again. Because, like, look, you've got Aquaman, you've got Avatar, and, you know, The Way of Water. And the way they do water gives you bright, vibrant colors. It's not to say that it has to be bright and vibrant, but it has to be visible. And that is something that if you're watching this movie in 3D IMAX, it's going to be as bad as the last fight scene in the first movie between Killmonger and Black Panther, in that all black vibranium cave that people actually had trouble watching. Every time they go into the Talocan, they go down in there into the capital city. It's dark. It's murky. It's hard to see. There's little definition. And I'm hopeful that when I can watch this again on home video, that those scenes have been brightened and are more visibly appealing. Other than that, it's just, this movie is not visually appealing outside of the opening funeral scene and whatever else. Like it's lacking so much that like I feel should have been there. And that is why this movie is having some serious issues and why I feel it's not going to live on as well as the first one did. It's got a lot to live up to, but at the same time, it's trying to do so much that it fails to really accomplish anything. But I leave it to you, your thoughts, your opinions. Let me know down in the comment section. Podio commentary, like, subscribe. Talk to you guys later. Peace out.